After an injury-plagued Week 5, we got plenty to talk about. I'm Dustin, welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. Before we get into it though, if you want to do the FanDuel Leagues, FST 2014, use that promo code. Gives you the same sign-up bonus as all the other places that you hear on the commercials and all that stuff. But help us out, use the code, deposit some money. They're a lot of fun, we're all hooked on them over here. But let's talk about the must-adds in all leagues. We'll start with running back. Ronnie Hillman's going to be definitely one of the most picked up players this week, and for good reason. He looks to be next in line as far as the running back to own out in Denver. There's a chance it might be some sort of weird committee situation with a few running backs factoring in, but Hillman looks to be the one to own. You're going to want to try to grab him. It looks like Ball's going to miss a few weeks. Andre Williams is the next guy's must-add in all leagues out there with the Giants. Rashad Jennings, we know he's good when he's healthy, but he is an older running back. He doesn't have a ton of carries in the NFL, but he's an older running back. There's a good chance he's going to battle injuries all year. Andre Williams has looked decent with the chances that he has had this year. He needs to be owned in all leagues at this point just to see what he can do and to see until we know the full extent of the Jennings injury. Brandon Oliver is a guy I want to talk about. I talked about him last week as a guy that we need to start paying attention to, and he showed us why Week 5. This guy got a chance, and he played great. Donald Brown's really not that good, and he got injured, which gave Oliver more touches, and his youngster showed us what he can do. Again, I think he's very much a Darren Sproles type player. He looks like him out there with the same number, and I think he takes over the Danny Woodhead role with the Chargers. So once Matthews comes back, I think Matthews and Oliver's going to be the guy to own instead of Brown. I think Oliver will have more value there. So in PPR leagues, long term, I think Oliver has value for the rest of the season. Standard leagues, I like Oliver as a short-term solution until Matthews comes back. Another must-add in all leagues, I think, is Benny Cunningham. This is a guy that was nipping at the heels of Stacy before the season started as potentially, maybe taking over that starting job. We didn't fully believe it, but I do think there was something to those reports. At this point, only on 5% of leagues, with Stacy a little banged up, this could be a chance for Cunningham to show us what he can do. So I think he should be added in pretty much all leagues just to see what happens. If Stacy ends up not playing Week 6, Cunningham could be a decent plug and play. A couple running backs to look at in deeper leagues, or a few running backs to look in deeper leagues. Storm Johnson's one guy I want to talk about out there at Jacksonville. They got to do something at running back. Gerhardt's been terrible. Todman's basically a change of pace back. Robinson's interesting, but I see him as more of a change of pace back as well. Storm Johnson might make the most sense for them as far as their early down running back. He's a rookie. He's got potential. The coaching staff liked what they saw Week 5. Definitely a guy to stash on a lot of benches as far as just being a high upside running back to put on your bench and see what happens. Let's talk about the Atlanta running back situation for a minute. Devontae Freeman, I've been high on him all year, but a couple weeks ago I switched to Antone Smith as far as the guy I think that's a handcuff to own out there with Atlanta. Now it's just this weird four-headed monster mess. It's just a fantasy nightmare. I don't think anyone's going to have a ton of value unless Steven Jackson goes down, and then even then it's going to be kind of hard to figure out who's going to be the guy to own. But I like Antone Smith, and I do like Devontae Freeman, both as high upside adds. In any type of 12, 14 team league, stick them on your bench, see what happens in this situation. They're going to be hard to start, but again, if there's an injury, high upside running backs for your bench. And out of the two, I do like Smith just a little bit more at this point. And then Juwan Thompson's one guy I want to talk about out there with Denver. There's a chance Hillman is in a committee like I was saying earlier, and Thompson could be the other part of that committee. Only on about 5% of leagues. He had a touchdown Week 5. There's a chance that even if Hillman gets most of the work, that Thompson might get the goal line. So it's just a guy that you're going to want to take a look at. Obviously, deeper leagues, and you might want to stash him on your bench and just see what happens. Some receivers for you. I don't need to say much about Brian Quick. I've been talking about him for weeks now. He still wasn't getting picked up. Still only on 55% of leagues. That's going to change after his amazing Week 5. The guy is good. The Rams are going to be playing from behind. They trust him the most. He needs to be owned in more leagues. Beckham Jr., the rookie receiver for the Giants. This is a guy that's going to get added in a ton of leagues. He had a solid Week 5. He's finally healthy. First round pick for the Giants. Obviously a lot of talent around this guy. They're going to look to get him more involved once he knows the offense a little bit more. As of now, he's still probably the wide receiver 3 out there with the Giants, but they throw the ball enough to where Beckham Jr. is going to be someone that you're going to want to add in all leagues at this point. And then Justin Hunter's a guy that I think you should add in deeper leagues. You know, he's just not in as good a situation as Beckham is as far as the quarterback goes. So I do like Hunter's talent. I think he's an extremely talented receiver, and I think they're going to continue to find ways to utilize that talent. But the passing game just isn't as good for Tennessee. But this is a guy that does need to be added in more leagues. He had a great Week 5, best game of the year so far for him. One quarterback I want to talk about, and that's Austin Davis for the Rams. Kids looked pretty good. You know, I was talking about Quick earlier, and Davis is the one that's putting Quick on the map right now. You know, those two have been hooking up okay. You know, he's got Jared Cook out there. He has a few weapons, and again, they're going to be playing from behind a lot. So this is a guy that any type of 2-quarterback league, you're going to want to start paying attention to this guy. He's got some tough matchups coming up, but long term, this is someone that you're going to want to pay attention to. And then 2 defenses for you. I think these should be added in all leagues at this point, not even necessarily pick up and plays. You know, Philadelphia only owning 65% of leagues at this point. You know, every year there's one defense that just seems to be a magnet for turnovers and turnovers for touchdowns. And so far that's the Eagles. And I don't know, it just seems the ones that are doing it earlier in the season a lot of times end up being the ones that just continue all the way through. You know, the Chiefs were a big one, you know, in prior years, I remember. And that could be the Eagles this year. So, you know, and I do like their matchup. You know, this week they have the Giants coming up. I know the Giants have been playing better, but I think the Eagles could get another defensive touchdown. And then Arizona is another team I want to talk about, only on 65% of leagues. You know, they were dropped in a lot of leagues because of their matchup against the Broncos, and you know, probably for good reason. You shouldn't have been starting them against the Broncos because they got negative points. But matchups coming up against the Redskins and the Raiders, they're going to be a nice defense for you over the next couple weeks. Could be a top 10 defense for 2 straight weeks. So it's time to pick the Cardinals back up if they are dropped in your league. There's just a portion of the list. If you want to see the full list, get onto the website. If you got any questions, post them in the forums, and Brent and I will be back at our regular time this week, so we'll see you then.